What is up YouTube, Extra Chronic back at it again once again with yet another amazing video. Today I bring you another episode of Underrated but Overpowered. If you do not know what Underrated but Overpowered is, it is a series that I started recently on my channel where I go over a deck that isn't really used in Yu-Gi-Oh that much and show you an easy way to run it to where your opponents will not expect it and possibly get you a bunch of wins. Now, I will explain how this deck works later on in the video, which if you want to go to the second part, it should be around the maybe 10-minute mark. Apart from that, let's go directly into the commentating. On my opponent's turn, he uses Soul Exchange to send my Rose Lover to the graveyard to summon his level 5 Armed Dragon. With that on field, I get slightly worried, but with Rose Lover's effect, I go ahead and summon the boss monster's deck, Bergamot, and I also summon Rosemary. Using their effects, I increase my life points by 500, activate Rosemary's effect and Bergamot's effect, switching his monsters to defense position, attacking with Rosemary, and then attacking with Bergamot. That is the first victory that you will see. And as you can see, within the first 2 turns, I've already wiped out my enemy. Getting into the second match, I'm going to be going against another person, which is going to be playing, I think this one is, it's Yugioh. Now, this is going to be a very fast one because I don't know what happened to this guy. I guess you'll just see. Basically, I go second almost every time in this duel, and in any of my duels that I'm going to be showing you. So, with balance, and he activates Power of Dark, I go ahead and draw my hand. My hand comes out pretty good with Aroma Garden being the card in my hand once again. With that on field, I go ahead and set it face down and activate Spell of Absorption. I go ahead and throw my Rose Lover face down. That way, I do not end up having it get attacked directly as in attack position and getting it destroyed, taking life points, because I need more life points to my opponent to activate any of my effects. He goes ahead and activates Winter Balloon, and now it's my turn. I activate Aroma Garden and Spell of Absorption, gaining another 500 life points. With Rose Lover's effect, I go ahead and banish her to the graveyard after summoning Rosemary to summon Bergamot to the field. With Bergamot on field, I go ahead and activate Aroma Garden's effect, activating Rosemary's effect to switch one of his monsters to defense position, and gaining a 1000 attack on my Bergamot. In doing so, I go ahead and activate their effects to make it very easy to deal damage to my opponent, where he cannot activate his monster effects, and anything in defense position gets hit with piercing damage. He uses D-Spell, and I don't know why, but he targeted my field spell instead of targeting Spell of Absorption, which increased my attack by even more. And I guess within that, he finally realized, oh man, I messed up. And instead of him surrendering, the funny part is, it didn't even disconnect me from the match. He dashboarded. That guy dashboarded the entire duel. I just thought that was blatantly hilarious. Coming into the third and last duel of this video, I am actually going to go against an Ancient Gears deck, and this is the first time I actually put Aromage against Ancient Gears, so I kind of knew what to expect, which was obviously an easy win. Alright, my balance skill activates. He has his Ancient Gear skill, which I think is something you can farm out from the event, but no matter what it is, it does not help him in any way because my starting hand is already strong enough. So, on my turn, I go ahead and draw, activate Aroma Garden, and put Jasmine face down. With Jasmine face down, I'm hoping that he doesn't have a monster with more attack than it. That way, I can already start off with the life point gap. So, he takes 300 damage, and that is his spiral downhill. I go ahead and gain my life points, draw another card, and tribute her for Bergamot. With Bergamot on field, I go ahead and summon Rosemary using the effect of Jasmine to summon Bergamot for my extra normal summon. In doing so, you can see how much damage I've done to him already. He's dropped down to 1700 life points. Now, with the gap of on life points, I actually end up winning this next turn because of how much attack I actually have on field. With Bergamot's effect activating and him having a monster with 2100 attack, I go ahead and use Rosemary's effect to switch to defense position. That way I can deal the utmost damage on my turn. Summon another Rosemary and go for the kill. That was 3,400 damage on a defense position monster. With that, that will end the duel, and I will be right back with part 2 of the video. Alright guys, going into part 2, my favorite part of this video, explaining the deck, how to use each card, why they're there, and some of the combos that you could possibly use. Now, starting it off, we want to talk about the support cards of this deck, being Aroma Garden and Spell Absorption. If you do not know what these cards do, Aroma Garden, once per turn if you control an Aroma monster, you can gain 500 life points. In doing so, the monster also gains 500 attack and defense until the end of your opponent's next turn. Now, even if this card leaves the field, the effect still stays, so you don't have to worry about that. If a face-up Aroma monster you control is destroyed by battle, or card effect, and sent to the graveyard, you gain 1,000 life points. Without this card, there's a lot of different things you would not be able to do with this deck, including as easy wins as I've gotten so far as I showed you. Now, with Spell of Absorption or Spell Absorption, what makes this card unique is that each time a spell card is activated, no matter what kind of spell it is, you gain 500 life points immediately after it resolves. So if your opponent is using enemy controller or something like that, you can use it to your advantage, being that Aroma monsters need a spell card and our life points itself to use any of their effects and or activate any of their effects. Now, for your quick play spells for this deck, as you can see, you're going to be running 2 enemy controllers, no more than 2, or it's up to you, but I've seen that with balance, it makes it easier to run 2 instead of 3, that way I don't end up overcrowding my hands with spells. Apart from that, you will be using Reload and or any card that lets you shuffle your hand into your deck and or reset your hand completely, that way you can possibly get better cards than you already have. Reload really helps out because it's a quick spell, so I can activate even on my opponent's turn, and it really helps out. I mean, you can use Magical Mallet if you want to, but this is my deck, so you can either copy this one or run your own. Either way, you've seen the win, so I don't know why you wouldn't copy this one. Now, your next card will be Super Rush Headlong. This card right here can save you in a lot of different ways, being that if your opponent is running a specific archetype like dragons or something like that, you can easily stop him from destroying your monster. Or if there's just that one monster on field that you really don't want on field anymore that keeps destroying your cards and or it's really pinning you down, you can go ahead and use Super Rush Headlong and destroy it. Getting to the cards you're going to be using on this deck, we go into Amaryllis. Okay, wherever you pronounce this card. This little guy is a really beneficial card to this deck. During your main phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard, and you can normal summon 1 monster this turn for 1 less tribute. Now, this card effect can only be used once per turn, and in likelihood, it really does help out within that 1 turn. You don't need any more of these cards. Now, I'm running 2 in the deck because I do not have a second Rose Lover, which I'll be talking about in a minute. But this card sets up Bergamot being summoned. That's the entire premise of this deck. Since you're running 3 Bergamots and that's your real boss monster of this deck, you need him on field at all times. You can summon up to 2, but I won't summon at least more than 1, because your opponent could possibly destroy that monster and stop you dead center. Now, going into the Aromage cards, let's talk about Rosemary. Rosemary has a very unique effect on the fact that if she gains life points, and if you control a plant-type monster that attacks, your opponent cannot activate any of its effects, being monster effects, until the damage step is over. So, if you're worried about your opponent maybe having something like a Mania Bug or something like that, you don't have to worry about it anymore with Aromage Rosemary, because that completely negates its effect. Now, when it does gain life points, its effect automatically activates and that you cannot change. What that effect does is that it targets 1 monster on your field of your choice, and it changes the battle position. This could work in your favor, and then it could be against you because you can also end up changing this monster into defense position, leaving you to no attack that turn. Paired up with Bergamot, it's really okay, being that if your opponent has a monster on field, you can switch that one to defense position if defense is lower, with Arrow Garden on the field and Bergamot on the field. You can inflict piercing damage, so that is a lot of damage overall, and that's how I win majority of my matches, as you've seen so far. Apart from that, we're going to go into the other cards. Now, going into the boss monster of this deck, Bergamot. His effect is probably the strongest and what makes the deck itself apart from the actual field spell. This boss monster, while your life points are higher than your opponent's, if a plant monster you control attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing damage to your opponent. So, you can see why I run Spell Absorption and Aromage. Keep your life points above your opponent's and you have no way to lose. If you do lose, I don't know if you surrendered or your connection dropped, because apart from that, you shouldn't. Now, going to its second effect, once per turn, if you gain life points, this card gains 1,000 attack and defense until the end of your opponent's turn. That means if your opponent possibly uses enemy controller and switches your monsters to defense position, you will gain another 1,000. So 1,000 your turn, that is possibly to 3,400. And if your opponent activates a spell card on his turn, such as Dispel or anything, that's another, if you have Spell Absorption on the field, that's another 1,000 attack and defense. So you go up to 4,400 attack and 3,800 defense. That should set you up for the entire opponent's turn. He shouldn't have anything to destroy that unless he summons somehow a god card, which your opponent shouldn't even have more than one card on the field if you're running this deck. But you get the idea. Going into another support card, as in the monster supports, you're going to be using Rose Lover. If I had more than one, I'd definitely use more than one because her effect is amazing. You can banish this card from your graveyard, as in, no matter how it gets to your graveyard, if you send it from your hand, if your opponent somehow sends it from your hand, sends it from the field, anything, this card can be banished from your graveyard to special summon one plant-type monster from your hand. This also leads up to Bergamot. Okay. And if you do, it is unaffected by your opponent's trap effects this turn. So that's one of the big helpers of this card, because you don't have to worry about wall disruption or anything, long as the monster that you summon with this is attacking first. Now, getting into another card, let's talk about Botanical Girl. This card can easily help you get cards like Rosemary into your hand really fast, and/or if you want to, some of your other supports like Amaryllis and Rose Lover into your hand. And/or is it on field? Oh yeah, it's into your hand as long as it has 1,000 or less defense. So Rosemary does count for that too. The only one you cannot put into your hand with that effect is Bergamot and Jasmine. Now, getting into Jasmine. Aromage Jasmine, during your main phase, while your life points are higher than your opponent's, you can normal summon one normal plant monster or one plant monster in addition to your normal summon, except another Rosemary Aromage Jasmine. Now, when you gain life points with this card, you actually get to draw an extra card, so you could end up searching the deck with this card. It's just not going to be that efficient, so only use the effect once if you can. Ultimately, try to get this card off your field as fast as possible if you do not get anything you need worth. Apart from that, that is the entire deck. I know I messed up a little bit at the end, but it is all for good reason. I'm actually very excited to show you guys this deck, because I've had this deck for a while. I've tested it out in a lot of different ways so far. I am not switching out any of my cards because everything works exactly like I want it to. Now, you can copy this deck. It's all up to you. You can change it around however you want. Just make sure you're running it with someone who has the skill balance. If you do not know what this skill does, it balances out your hand apparent to what cards you run in your deck, as in monsters and spells. So you should almost never brick. If you do end up bricking, do not worry. If you survive the next 2 turns, you should possibly have a way to summon either Bergamot or a way to turn the duel around completely. That will be the deck, guys. I will not keep you here any longer. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like. If you want to check out some of my other content, which I have a few more videos of Underrated but Overpowered, showcasing a few other decks that not many people use anymore, that are very strong and viable. Go ahead and check them out. If you're new here, you know what to do. Make sure to hit that subscription button. Also hit the notification bell to know if I put any new videos out. I should be doing at least 1 to 2 videos a week. Every Sunday, you should expect a Underrated or Overpowered within the middle of the week and/or throughout the week. Expect maybe a random upload. That's why I say keep the notification bell on. But also, if you're new here, make sure to share some of my content, because I feel like if I do grow my channel more people can enjoy these amazing decks, and I'll finally have a close-knit community for me to communicate with. Maybe even make a Discord, something like that, along those lines. You never know, so go ahead and try out and help me. Apart from that, it's been Chronic. I am out. See you guys next time, and check out some of my other content.